Break time. And what have we learned, Star Trek? Here it is, episode 219 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and Trekland Treks, giving you, offering you, sharing some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. This week, I just feel like taking a breath. You know, if you listen to Second Opinion, and why not? I always say that we let just a couple of days go by instead of being the first in. You barely had time to wake up and there's already 42 different people trying to review a new episode. Let's just take a breather for a couple of days. That's the idea of Second Opinion. Hope you check it out on the YouTube channel. Today, I feel like doing that with the summer. I mean, it's been a week now, nearly a week since we had the finale for Strange New Worlds. By my calculations, we've got a whole 3 weeks, 4 Thursdays before Lower Decks begins. And it begins with a doubleheader. They're going to show two for the price of one on Thursday, September 7th. So here we've got 3 weeks of actual hiatus time. And I think it couldn't have come at a better time. Number one, we ran through those episodes of Strange New Worlds so much that there's a little reflecting that needs to happen, I believe. And I've already been doing some, and I've been sharing it around. I may bring some of it back today. You can tell my voice. I am still recovering. Let's see. 3 cons, a 10-day trip, a 5-day road trip, and co-hosting a big event at Will Rogers, all in the last 7 weeks. This has been a summer almost like no other. And then all the Star Trek stuff. The Star Trek stuff that I share with everybody. That we all share together. So, yes. It's been the most active time here for us putting content out. So, another nod here to the guys, to Scott and Kyle, for helping with all the video content. So, please like and subscribe on the YouTube. But I just thought, without something obvious in our face, and you never know, Wednesday, I mean, there's headlines every day these days, and some of them are actually about Star Trek. No, I've wondered for people to keep reacting. You know, the react show to show, week to week, in the moment. That's one thing. And that happens every week. But Strange New Worlds has been, we praise how Strange New has been all over the map with formats this year. We've had comedies, we've had dramas, we've had courtroom dramas, we've had straight up planetary adventures. We've had Klingon face-offs. We've had a musical. We've had 2 historic formats this year: the musical and the overlap with the animation. And it wasn't just bringing the animated characters to 3D real life; it was actually mixing animation from the Lower Deck side of things in with the live action. No Mary Poppins, no Roger Rabbit, but either side of that line, it's been kind of amazing. And I have a feeling that maybe we need maybe a little more than a few days to reflect on it all. So that's what I thought today would be. Look, what have we learned? Where are we now that we weren't when Strange New debuted? So again, everybody, apologies for my throat. I continue to be a little croaky. Am I in distress here? You can almost not see the portal pin there. There we go. I just thought that there's no one big story going on, but it feels like there's a lot of little threads happening. There's a lot of little murmurs and chats I see on some of the open boards. Maybe we can get into it here when we get into the chat as well. But yes, we've got 3 weeks until Lower Decks. Is it just me, or has there been a very low-key Lower Decks profile? I mean, I'm sure it will all crank up now. Some of this is about the strike going on, and let's talk about that. There were some little bits of headlines the last few days. Friday, there was an announcement that the producers, AMPTP, had reached out to the writers about coming back to the table to talk. They've given them some proposals. They've been put out in the press. WGA has shared some of that. It's like meeting them part way on residuals. It's some statements, items about the writer's room, about basically young writer abuse, about blowing up the whole writer mentoring system, most of all about a little bit about raising rates on residuals on streaming. I don't know if they've talked about actually tracking the residuals on streaming system. it's great to be paid more for something that you don't know that you're being accurately paid for in the first place. So we will see. They were supposed to go back in today. The Writers Guild was going to give their response to what they were given. Part of that might be to point out what they didn't respond to at all. So I don't think we're going to have I don't think I'm going to be interrupted here by headlines about the strike being over. And of course, none of this applies to the actors' side of things. As much as they are walking in lockstep and in solidarity, they do have separate issues, and they'll be solved in different ways. So it's not like a lockstep thing. So we're hopeful a little bit that maybe at least some gears are turning. It has been 100 days. So it's been over 3 months. They marked the 100 days last week. We were barely home from Vegas when the 100-day, everybody was putting out their 100-day posts from the line. So we're still watching that. We'll see what comes of that. But meanwhile, I've not seen much promotion for Lower Decks, and I'm guessing that will crank up in earnest. The other thing at this time of year, though, after Vegas and before whatever's happening in the fall, is Star Trek Day, which has become a big marketing piece with the return of, I'll never forget, I'd never heard the term Star Trek Day until they were promoting the first season of Discovery premiering in September. And all of a sudden, all the initial cast of Discovery was making a little framed Instagram square. Happy Star Trek Day, happy Star Trek Day, happy Star Trek. The entire 15 people in the cast, both ships' crews of all species, in and out of their makeup. We'd always said happy anniversary day. Oh, happy anniversary, Star Trek. We had said it as kind of like a sidebar greeting, but I think it was marketing for Paramount, for CBS All Access, that first started making Star Trek Day a phrase. The In the Know kids have been doing that for 20 years, but not quite as hallmarky, if you get my drift. It was kind of the underground, subversive. The cool kids know about this. And yeah, May the 4th be with you was a big thing earlier because, Star Wars is a big thing and they sell more toys. But Star Trek Day is coming. Now, whether they're going to mark it on Friday the 8th, which is the actual day, or they will do it something in tandem with the 7th, which is a Thursday, not the 8th, the historical calendar day, the first day Star Trek premiered in the US. And yes, I know it was technically in Canada 2 days earlier. I know. Or whether they will move Star Trek Day to the Thursday to overlap with Strange New Worlds premiere. I don't know. It seems weird that they didn't have Star Trek Day clear of Lower Decks so they could have some pronouncements. Maybe they want the shows to premiere so they can talk about Lower Decks, at least in one aspect. They'll probably have some programming, some panels, some things, some elements that pertain to all the current shows, which includes Discovery, which has been bumped back next year. It's canceled, but on a throne. Actually, I feel like it's been retrenched. I feel like, what are the other things that have happened? Because of the retrenchment in the industry, couple that with the strikes delays. So we may have some news coming out of Star Trek Day. That's something we know, but that's the landscape right now. We know that after Lower Decks runs, there will be no Prodigy, at least on Paramount Plus, which was going to take us to the end of the year, feeling like we had Star Trek all year long on P+, the home of Star Trek, not. So we'll see what happens. Maybe by then we'll even have a deal to put Prodigy on a new home. Who knows? Hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. They're talking, I think Aaron was talking about the final 10, all the way to number 20, episode 220, being wrapped up by early next year. So that was a factor. And when exactly will Discovery have its final hoorah? In the spring sometime, late winter, early spring. We'll find out about that too. Then we really will have a long drought until the Section 21 movie, 31 movie can be put up. And Starfleet Academy won't be out until 2025 in any case, which was always the plan, apparently. If you watch my video with the writers on Star Trek Day, that was a nugget that was dropped, that it was never going to be sooner than 2025. It may just be later in 2025. And of course, what of Legacy? That's in the mix as well. Depends on what happens with the strike, what the final terms are, what the ground looks like around Paramount Plus and all the streamers by then, what this big Showtime merger, which was also part of the factory. So we don't know a lot. We may know a lot more in 2 or 3 weeks. We'll see about that. We don't know any more about the strike or the shows. But what do we know? What do we know about Strange New? Look, gang, I've been talking about this for a few weeks now. And aside from the individual episodes, what do we know? Well, after a year and a half of wondering and worrying and curious, we know that Strange New Worlds, Star Trek can pull off an animated live action crossover. We know it can be done. Same way we know that Star Trek can pull off a vaunted musical episode, Take That Buffy. But we also know that some people are just never going to enjoy a musical, and that's fine. We know that some people who enjoy musicals, and I have a very good friend who was disappointed that the show didn't go musical enough in its direction in cinematography, that it was so grounded in reality as an alien effect that it didn't utilize the musical capacity. I still think, as I said on Second Opinion and a couple of shows since then, I still think that for most of fandom, having the musicality not just pop in out of nowhere, but having it actually be a technobabble MacGuffin of the week, and having everybody bop in and out of the musicality, having the musicality like a fever, having the musicality be just another form of an alien takeover. This was a non-sentient alien, but still. Having it be another form of basically another Naked Time, Naked Now, or Power Play, what have you. Anytime you've got an alien takeover of our bodies or loss of control of personalities and body autonomy of our regular characters, that's basically what this was, with a little bit of fear wrapped up into it too. And then you throw in the Borg Picard-like threat of spreading to the whole fleet and our enemies and adversaries and allies, just being out of control seemed to kind of hit the nail on the head for me. So the fact that you can do that and have it be music is the bit. And then you do work in the musical trope. So I said all this on my Second Opinion two back for the musical, for Subspace Rhapsody. But bottom line is, yes, they can do it and write it. And if you sing it, they will come. Most people. The folks who just don't appreciate musicals at all, but they still love their Trek. Some of them were very patient, and some of them not. Same way that a lot of people don't like horror. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds has certainly leaned into the horror with the Gorn. A lot of people those weren't their favorite episodes last year, Memento Mori and All Those Who Wander. But we are fleshing out the Gorn. Controversy about that. What do we know now? We know a lot more about the Gorn. And in my way of thinking, okay, in my headcanon, in my canon in a vacuum, we've been shook up about the Gorn just because we didn't know anything about them for 50 years. So now we're getting an awful lot about them. And I was kind of tickled I've seen a couple of interviews. One of them being Alan Scott just did an interview, I believe it was with Trek Movie, basically reaffirming and Henry Alonso Myers, and I can't wait to have some conversations with them myself. But it looks like what some of us who are putting some thought, the canon smoothers and gap fillers of the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years, looking at this situation, we totally found a way to go. Where, yeah, your Arena Gorn was a captain, he's an elder. What we're seeing here to fulfill the horror aspect are really scary, really spastic, really alien-esque critters, but they're all hatchlings and younglings. I love these terms. We finally saw an adult who is obviously not spastic. For one thing, he can put on a spacesuit and do fight and hold tools, which we would expect of a warp-faring species. So look, we've learned a lot. I've also learned the fact that these weren't rushed into. The ones that provided the horror aspect, the face hugger type, the ones from season 1, there were adults fashioned, we're learning now, which in my mind is a great reassurance. People are taking very sane, rational steps to develop the Gorn. We know so little about it, but we did know something. And to fill that out, to flesh out what we know about the Gorn in a meaningful way that will lead down the pike. The jury is still out there, still having inner circle discussions about how to get from here to there, and not to leave the adult Gorn out, and not to leave out the Gorn that we saw, which was criticized at the time because it was a shock to the system. It was treated the same way as the Gorn yearlings and hatchlings were last year. Difference was, it was part of one little segment of Inner Mirror Darkly, which people loved in the middle of the Depression about Enterprise going down and TV Star Trek going down. That kind of got brushed out of the memory hole, aside from the Gornophiles, who were especially there. I'm heartened to see that the creative process is basically mimicking what I would do, what a lot of us out here are saying and thinking. It's good to see a lot of folks kind of getting over the shock of last season with the Gorn and realizing there was an adult. He was wearing a spacesuit, and that it looked like a typical hand-to-hand, no gravity, null gravity. It was awesome. As I said in the second opinion, that may have been the best stunt battle, especially on episodic TV ever. Even with all the fancy-dancy Discovery, ooh, look at us do the cool stunts. This one was very organic and very revealing about the characters and the situation. I might be leaving one out, but it impressed me. I think I will go away from this thinking of that stunt sequence. I remember the rotating, when that was like a fad thing to do, the rotating room. Okay, fine. But it still felt like a stunt. This did not feel like a stunt. This was very organic. So I feel like we know a lot, and what we know about the process with them is proceeding. What we know about all the characters, so far they're threading the needle here. If we're slicing a hair and sliding something through, it's happening, which that's what happens in real life. We don't always have the benefit of knowing the end game of something to retcon it back, to flush it out. And that's what's happening here with legacy characters, which that's fine. I would rather do that than never touch a legacy character again. It's not their fault. We know a bit about them and they stagnate. That's happening. I still stick to my guns, and I've seen other people support this. I hope we don't turn into a full-bore stampede to wind up with the Kirk crew before this show is done. I know it's tempting. I said this on Second Opinion, and this is a criticism. I love Martin Quinn, not Quinn Martin. I love Martin Quinn as Scotty. It's good. As we said, it's finally, they've got a Scottish actor playing Scotty. We love Jimmy. Simon Pegg did a great job. We've gone from Canada to England and now to Scotland. What a concept. We know that it's bothered some people. It bothered me a little bit that we've got characters being cast slightly out of phase. Paul Wesley is 41, I believe, playing Kirk when he's 26, 27. And he can do that. I mean, it's a yardstick that, it doesn't really come into play until we look at what's going on and who we think of before that. Ethan is about 4 or 5 years younger than him. In real life, Nimoy and Shatner were the same age. Spock was supposed to be a little older than Kirk. The two actors are the same age. It's fine. You can chalk that up to species diversity in comparison. It's bothered a lot of people, though, that the only downer that people have seen about Martin's casting, not his portrayal, but his casting, is that he looks a little younger than Kirk. And we know that Scotty is older. Scotty's 11, 12 years older than Kirk. McCoy is almost as much. And please, we don't need McCoy. You're looking at the number one McCoy fan here. We do not need McCoy yet. For one thing, we need Mark Piper first. Now, is Scotty going to be just kind of transiting? Is he going to be a tangent? Pelia, everything about Pelia feels very temporary. She's running away from all the hordes hanging onto her thousands of years coattails. I was saying last time, my gosh, if you're going to have her in a plot, use her. I said on Second Opinion, if Guinan is your great plot device because she's hundreds of years old, well, I'll hold my beer. We've got somebody over here who's a Lanthronite, whatever, and she's thousands of years old. And how is she not held captive in the Federation history barn? I don't know. But I get it that she wants to run away and keep having something fresh, some fresh adventures. We're here in 2260. Remember, we're in 2259. Where No Man is 2265. Man Trap forward is 2266. So just as a timer, we are still 6-7 years before the first season, before the pilot and second season. So there's plenty of time for trauma. Martin is almost a baby face, though. I'm going to say, just as with Spock, that there is some trauma and some major life events ahead of Martin now that he's getting, I don't know, he's been on, has he really been on that many number of ships and freighters as yet? Scotty in Relics, Jimmy Doohan's Scotty, says he's been on 11 ships in his career, including the Enterprise. Whether that includes the Enterprise refit, the Enterprise A, I don't know. Could it be 10 other ships or 8 other ships? But that's 10 or 8 other ships. He talks about the Star Driver. Okay, there's one. But I think he may wander off. He may one-off mention over the years being on a freighter or when he was on a this or on a that. I'll have to check that. But basically, he's got some more time. He's had 12, 15 years, 17 years out of the academy. So he's just been engineering around and not concerned himself with the rank. He's a Lieutenant JG. We don't know what his rank was in Where No Man because of the goofy stripe system. We do know he was Lieutenant Commander by 2260. So in 7 years, he's Lieutenant Commander. He has advanced 2 ranks. That's what we know. I'm hoping that he has some horrible gut-wrenching thing that puts a little age on that baby face by the time we get to 2265 and 2266. I'm hoping within 6-7 years, something horrific happens to him that really ages him. But that's what we hold the door open to. Same way as we're looking at all the legacy characters we've been talking about all along. But that's a thing. That's a thing. I almost wonder what happens to I hope to God they don't kill Pelia off. How can you kill a 1,000-year-old sentient life form that's probably been through to hell and back and come back? I'd like to know what glancing blow Pelia does when she takes off, where her trip leads her. Does she wind up like Kaiopaka or something? Does she wind up trapped helping people as a means to? I can't believe her trapping herself up front. I don't know. I'm speculating here. What have we learned? We've just learned what a completely open-ended slate all these characters are presenting us. We've also learned that Starfleet Academy will be off down the line. It will be a 30-second show unless that little gizmo about 100 years of no Starfleet was a total red herring. But basically, that will be and probably with Tilly and some of her cadets we saw, probably when we get there. Section 31 is the 2-hour movie now. We know that. I've talked to some people that say it's at least a 2-hour movie to fulfill the new Paramount Plus mission of having more TV movies. Will it still potentially serve as a backdoor pilot for a cast without Michelle Yeoh? She sets up a show and then she's gone, and it's as much of a spin-off potential as, hey, those last 2 hours of Picard for Legacy. At least that much is what could be in the offing here. We know that they are working madly on the production side of things, but might be holding up if the strikes last much longer on Section 31. Not the Academy. The writer's room was working, but did not get far enough along to agree on the conceptual designs they wanted to then hand to an art department to go out and actually make whole. They didn't have they hadn't worked long enough to nail down the conceptual concepts that they wanted to see realized. So we're not that far along. Probably some basics, maybe, but not enough for people to come in and draw blueprints and swing hammers or pneumatic hammers. And most of all, we are learning that this whole streaming industry, we've learned this strike is exposed, just as the pandemic exposed so much. We have learned how little the streaming model is. Although I will say, the signs seem to point, and as much as people were pissed about how Discovery was handled, how even more people were pissed about the canceling, the canceling, but also the erasure of Prodigy from Paramount Plus. That Paramount Plus, as I would hear writers say, had not been so abusive to the process as others, looking at you, Netflix, had been on the whole writing system that has been around for 50, 60 years, that's given us what we've got. So all the new cast and crew, I've been reading about some of the other players who are stepping up, who are wanting to get the strike ended. Another executive at Netflix, and as much wrath as Bob Iger took for his unrealistic comments, he has wanted to step in. Saw him mentioned in one of the trade news reports. But even from Star Trek, you may have missed it because it came out just as Vegas was ending. But there was a quarterly statements call. Trek Movie did a story about it. Basically, there were no specifics about Star Trek, but the bottom line was that the franchises of Paramount, which now it's not just Star Trek. Now we have, for some reason, Taylor Sheridan's shows are now a franchise. You get one or two shows, I guess you're a franchise. I guess that's only fair. But they are leaning into those. So that bodes good things for Star Trek. Nobody got mentioned by name. The bottom line here is, for me, is will we ever again have a structure where we had 3 live action series and 2 animateds? Can I still count? Yes, I can count. Which yield us, if we stick with the 10 episodes a season model at a time, and I know that was not what Prodigy was doing, but going with that, that's 5 series, 10 a year, 10 a season. That's 50 weeks. That's all but 2 weeks a year covered, even when they overlap. And yeah, Prodigy having a 20 episode season would alter that. Is that going to be a pace that keeps up? If we look up in a year from now or year and a half from now, and the Academy is the Academy and Strange New, that's 2 live actions and Lower Decks. Is that enough? That's 30 weeks. Would they be happy with that? Or will we get back around to the bean counters decide that the streaming model, without some major change, is going to support that, or maybe one more streaming series? Or you've been seeing Chris Fisher sound off, wishing out loud for a 20 episode, maybe even a 15 episode season again. Do we go back that direction to get more bang out of them? We don't wear out the writers or the crews or actors, but to get more out of a season is somebody to, rather than have 3 10 episode live actions, we have 2, maybe 3, and they do 15 rather than having a 4th. Is that where we go? I don't know. I'm still waiting to see everything that Picard unleashed by shooting in LA, where we understand, sadly, and as much as I would love to see all Star Trek get back to LA where God intended it. Thank you, Kalis. It costs 4 to 5 times more to shoot in LA. The same amount of footage to get 10 1-hour episodes is 4 to 5 times more expensive in LA than in Toronto. That's a crime. That shouldn't be that way. People should take steps, or supporting governments for the lost jobs and revenue as much as the vibe. And I love Canadians. I'm thrilled that you've got an industry. I'm only talking about Star Trek. I just hope that, and I haven't seen this, I still hope that the success of Picard hasn't somehow backfired and boomeranged, and the legacy drive hasn't led to some kind of a competition that's not as healthy as it should be between Toronto and LA makers. Now, the only reason they shot in LA was because of Sir Patrick. If that's not a factor, then I don't think any Star Trek is going to shoot here, even though half or more of the people involved, from producers and writers on down, through a lot of the creatives who can work from home, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And that's probably something that we have learned. If there's some major shakeup in financing, if there's some major shakeup in some kind of tax credit, far bigger than what Picard had. Picard did have a tax credit to shoot in California, but it was nothing near what it would take to put a dent in it and make it the same as shooting in Toronto right now. And most of all, what have we learned? We've learned that, once again, the thing that's fearful, an animated series, a kid's series, a musical, an animated crossover. I think we've learned that despite all the hand-wringing and the pearl clutching, which happens every time Star Trek comes back from a gulf, I think, for the most part, most of fandom is breathing easier, that a lot of these are being carried off. Now, I know several people that still have legitimate criticisms of even Strange New Worlds. And that's fine. I'm not going to go through them here, but people earnestly, sincerely talk about the things they're not the most happy with. People are still wondering what we love Chrissy Chong, but they're still wondering why is there a Noonien Singh character in this mix and Kirk is coming in, and you start to see some memes. If these are really long-term Easter eggs that I hope have a long-term point and weren't just, ooh, this would be cool. But, we've got at least 3 years, seasons, hopefully 4, 5, or 6, to find out what's going to happen with some of these breadcrumbs that were planted here today. I don't know. We're sitting here production-wise, physically. It's hard to imagine, production-wise, talk about that Gorn in the adult suit, but that was a performer in a suit in the thing enhanced with CG, which was awesome. And we may have our number one uncredited performer so far for Strange New Worlds. The ability of pure production has been unparalleled. Are we going to keep seeing actual commitments? Are we really going to have to chalk up TOS to being the drama? My headcanon that I came up with the first time I saw Enterprise on Discovery, and if not the outside of the ship, especially the bridge. And I know bridge modules and all that. But in a large sense, if the movie continuity dovetails better into that than the TV, obviously, because it was a sea change between 66 and 79, TV to movie quality, budgets and such. But if we're going to back off of the 60s TOS just being the popularly dramatized adventures for the masses that Admiral Kirk wrote about in his foreword to the motion picture novelization, I've seen more and more people pick up on that. I should go back and post-date that. But if they're sincerely going to try to match this and one more refit, and we dumb the ship down with advancements, okay, that's fine. We can do that. But for right now, I'm set. I'm good because there's so much positive about Strange New Worlds. Just this cast and their chemistry. If you're going to do a musical, you'd better have some of that cast chemistry in place to take it to a higher level. And I believe they did. It's been heartening from Trek Vegas and some of the podcasters out there that my lifelong mission to see more due at the time given to those backstage creatives from the other writers on down, even the showrunners. That seems like that's happening too. So yay on that. It's nice not being the only lone voice out here, especially voice, apart from the Makeup and the Makeup Guild and the DP report in American Cinematographer or Cinefex. It's good to see the mainstreaming of some of these really deep cut production categories. Oof. But that said, Portal 47 is not going anywhere, as you would think. Gang, I don't know. What have we learned here as we take a breath? What are you going to do? Oftentimes I'll say, what are you going to do with the hiatus? It's only 3 weeks. It's only 4 Thursdays. And 4 Thursdays till Star Trek Day. What are you going to reflect on from what you've seen come out of Comic-Con and even Trek Vegas, even without it being an official convention? Let's save it up. We'll circle back around and I'll dive into the chat and we'll see what everybody thinks. For right now, though, we're halfway through August. Can you believe it? Does it feel like summer's almost over? I don't know if it feels that way or not, but for any time of year, whenever you're headed this way to LA, I hope you'll think about your own custom away mission. Yeah, think about me, our Trekland Treks. Hey, there's a documentary coming by some really talented folks. It's the best commercial ever for the fact that you don't have to sit back at home and listen to a couple of stars talk about location sites. Watch them being a few of the top ones being, you can dive into any of the 50 that are around here. Some of them brand new thanks to Picard. And I'll be your guy. Let me know, get ahead of us ahead of time. We'll plan your day. We'll go to 4 places. I'll pick you up. Be your guide, be your wrangler, props, whatever. TreklandTreks.com. Check it out, everybody. Of course, another week here as my voice grinds on, and I got to thank our Patreon folks. A big shout out to the folks who are in our TTL club. Hey, that includes, of course, Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Galinda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Pranakasha Productions, Comedy Forecast, and Andrew Jazimski. And one step up, our TTL Live Wires. I'm talking about Rob McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Hubbard Gunn Johnson, Alan Hoenzi, Dave Gregory, Tobias Rex, Donna Runyon, and Donna S. Runyon, and Casey Shafsky, and a bunch of these folks. It was a pleasure to see once again at Vegas. Vegas getting back. What did we learn? We learned that you can, for those who have forgotten, who weren't around 10 years ago, we can perfectly have an unlicensed Star Trek convention. We can learn that some folks, as much as we talk and talk and talk here on all of our podcasts and live streams and all that, when you meet fans in the flesh, there's still lots out there to confuse people, whether it's about the show canon or just the way the strikes, the way the streaming industry works. And so that's why I totally enjoy having this time with you every Tuesday. That's why I enjoy digging into the business side on our Ask Dr. Trek roundtables on Portal, and talking about it anytime I have a guest, talking about what their niche in the industry, how it impacts or affects, I should say. You know that impact is the word that means physical contact. So all these people that love to think it's more dramatic to say, how will this impact my industry? Well, if it's in an asteroid that's going to crush your headquarters building, that would be an impact. Otherwise, that big dramatic thing happening conceptually to your big dramatic numbers on a spreadsheet, that's an effect, not an impact. Or else we just let the English language go to hell. Your choice. There's a rant for you. What did we learn? We learned impact versus effect. No, kids, we learned that there is so much to do. And I learned at Vegas that there are still so many new fans coming in. It's glorious. Gosh, who'd have thought, cranking out 5 new series over the last 5, 6, 7 years. It's finally started to sink into the zeitgeist. New Trek is finally starting to soak in. People are picking up on Pike's Peak. People are picking up on the Gorn and on the Klingon. People are picking up on Choo 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 and a sarcastic Vulcan goodbye. People are picking up on holograms, Janeway or otherwise, and whatever else we go down the list for. People are picking up that a lot of celebrities are Trek fans. People are picking up on the mundanes, the vast audience. Star Trek is creeping back into the mundane national consciousness, and it's a good thing. Even as we're sitting here watching the Sturm and Drang of the week-to-week, season-to-season drama, the end result is we are not in the fallow times, and there's not just one Stark out there, but there's 4, 5, 6, 7 happening, and it's a glorious thing. And new blood keeps showing up at every convention, especially Vegas. New blood from around the world, where a lot of you all are from today. So that's going to do it for me. Thanks to our Patreons, of course. Thanks to anyone, if you're considering a Trekland Trek, come on out. Thanks to everybody who is, yes, our Trekophiles spelled with an F, because you're back at it. Hey, we've got Tim Peel, once again, who is the modern graphics guru for everything Toronto-based. Everything but Picard and the animated, although he's there to consult. He's our guest this week on the Trek Files, but we're talking about a decidedly non-artsy topic. Just Gene and his philo, his philosophy. Guru Gene in the 70s, and Tim wanted to talk about it, and we had a fun time doing so. So yeah, the Trek Files is up for this week. We're nearing the end of our 10th season. That's amazing. But they're all there. They're all there on the Facebook page, the Trek Files, or wherever your podcasts are caught. The Facebook page is the one place in the universe where you can see the documents of the week, because it ain't just called the Trek Files for nothing, kids. We didn't just use that as a folder, as a logo for nothing on that folder. Absolutely. Facebook.com/the Trek Files. Otherwise, you know, if you're leaving us now, and if you're watching on Facebook, you can leave a comment below. You missed the live show. I hope you can join us live, though. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. Otherwise, it's Larry Nemecek on Twitter and Instagram, and Larry Trekland on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. And like and subscribe, ring that bell, do all the things if you would, please. That's going to do it for me. I'm just saying, whether you're getting that weird way, that little wave of COVID that's out, a lot of people came away from Vegas with one. You're getting a summer cold, or you just can't stop talking over the months. Whatever is going on, and heat, whatever's happening, all the weather crazy out there too as well. Please do all the things and stay healthy, would you please? And it seems like whatever is going on, even when it comes to the writer and actor strikes and the motion side of things, check the sources, much less the political. Okay? And truck well, everybody.